That's why I say that biochemistry and physiology are the two pillars in medical knowledge. If you have a mastery of both, folks, you can figure out 1,000 things without ever reading about it. All right? So we figured out a lot of signs and symptoms, complications, cause of death. But with biochemistry, we're going to figure out a lot about labs. A lot about labs. That's what it means for the boards 2 and 3 people. Instead of trying to memorize those labs, folks, here we go, understanding biochemistry. Then you got 3 sources of energy in your body. Or lead 3 sources of energy in your body: proteins, fats, sugars. Now the books say you and I are made up of mostly proteins. Mostly proteins. However, sometimes when I'm standing in front of the mirror, I don't see the proteins. I'm like, where are these proteins they're talking about? All right. Here's why the books always say proteins. Because the proper way to weigh somebody is dip them in water. Fat floats on water, so it doesn't contribute much to your weight, whereas protein drags a lot of water with it. So the majority of your body weight is made up of proteins. That's what they're talking about, but just so you know. Okay? So proteins, fats, and sugars, that's the 3 sources of energy. The one that's readily available and easiest to mobilize, sugars. Then proteins, then fats. Fats are the last things your body wants to mobilize. Why? Because Rashi remembers, what is it that fat hates more than anything else? Water. What is it water hates more than anything else? Fat. So your fat has very little water running through it, and so how do you mobilize the energy into the plasma if you want to allow plasma to come in? Everybody understand that? First reason why your body holds on to fat. I'm going to show you lots of reasons why your body likes to hold on to it. That's the number 1 reason. There's hardly any water associated with it. Okay, proteins and sugars drag a lot of water. So they add so much to your body weight, but fat doesn't add much to your body weight. All right? Proteins are the main intracellular buffers. Intracellular, Jessica. What if I would ask you, what's the main extracellular buffer? Tony will help you out. The main extracellular buffer that we've been talking about. Diana, help us all out. The main extracellular buffer. Buffer. Extracellular. Which one have we been talking about? That buffers acid for you. Cammie. It's called bicarb. Bicarb was outside. Extracellular. Everybody with me? Now we're inside this intracellular. Proteins. That means, Tony, if I ask you, what's the main intracellular buffer in your right arm? Left foot, in your knee, interstitium, in the back of your head after Jessica slaps you. Okay, sounds good. Everybody understand? If you want to make the question more specific, here's how they do it, Rebecca. What's the main intracellular buffer within a red blood cell? Rebecca would say, huh? Intracellular, Rebecca. I lost you. Remember, extracellular is bicarb. This is intracellular. You always say protein. Do you understand? And then you ask yourself, what's the main protein within a red blood cell? What? What? It's called hemoglobin. That's how to make it specific. They'll ask you about a cell who has a protein you should know. RBC is their favorite one because you should know the main protein inside is hemoglobin. You understand now? Yeah, that's the only way you make it more specific. But the answer will never change. It's always going to be a protein. Everybody clear about that? I always want you to catch the concept before you start writing down any details. All right, so proteins. Well, here, proteins are made up of amino acids, Melanie. An amino acid, Melanie, has an amino group and an acid group. Hey, Melanie, an amino acid has an amino group and an acid group. You think that's why they call them amino acids? Yeah, I think so. Because usually when you ask a student, what's the same about valine and lysine? You know what students start thinking about right away? This part right here. Why? Because that's the one they amplified in your books. That's why. The rings and the OH groups and all that stuff. You forget, all of them got this. Well, they got that. Okay? But there's only one exception to this rule, Tina. They're only amino acid. Begin with an I rather than A. It's called proline. Proline is the only amino acid. Because he's different from the other 19 amino acids. Tatiana. This one likes to be different. Proline says, I want to be different. Because he is so different. Wherever you find proline, you find kinks, bends, twists, and turns. You understand, Tatiana? If I see kinks, what am I looking at? What? Proline. I see twists, what am I looking at? Turns, what am I looking at? Bends, what am I looking at? Anytime something twists, turns, bends, or kinks, what am I looking at? Every time, what am I looking at? If it's kinks, bends, twists, and turns, Tatiana, what are you hearing? Proline. That means Tatiana. If your boyfriend's acting kind of kinky over the weekend, what's he been eating? What's he been eating, Tatiana? Too many proline bars. Tell him, get off that stuff, man. Remember, folks, twist, turns, kinks, and bends. You better be hearing proline. I bet y'all see the answer real quick while you guys are reading the first one. That's my point to you. Now, if I ask you, Nicole, give me a tissue in your body with a whole lot of proline in it. If you can't remember, just scratch your head. It'll come to you. What is it? No, scratch your head. It'll come to you. You got to scratch your head first. Scratch the back of your head. What are you feeling? Hair, that's right. I was right. Didn't I tell you? If you just scratch your head, it'll come to you. So twist, turns, kinks, and bends. Hair is the best example. Okay, that means blacks and Hispanics have more proline because our hair is more twisted and turning. You follow me? Okay. All right. Hair, GI, blood vessels. GI and blood vessels are the three that'll get you a point on the exam. Because all they do is twist and turn, which means there's a little bit in every tissue. Everybody follow me? But if you pick those other tissues, you'll get nothing for it. Is what I'm telling you. The three that twist and turn all the time will get you a point. So a hair, GI, and blood vessels, all they do is twist and turn. So everybody clear about amino? Well, let me hip you to these questions that are about experiments. There's a scam going on, Eros. There's a scam going on. Let me tell you one that got me, and I finally figured out the scam. Question said, which amino acid, as in which amino acid, and then they went on and on about this experiment, and then there was pretty blue colors. And then there was some pretty pink that came out after that. Oh, and it was pretty purple after that. Oh, it was the whole rainbow. And at the end, they asked what amino acids being used in the experiment. I don't know. But it was pretty colors, though. Pretty colors. So my hint to you, folks, anytime you see an experiment question, rats and chemicals, it's a clue question. Can you believe that? Second word in the whole long paragraph, and I didn't catch it. Which amino acid just clicked and moved, man. But no, I had to see the rainbow. Great fireworks. That's just like all the students always, well, let me read the rest just to be sure, Dr. Frank. Okay, go ahead, watch the fireworks. And, and then you read the other one. There was some pretty rats. It was white rats, black rats, gray rats with black dots on their back. Really? Yeah. Okay. They know all about the rats. And then when they ask the question, I don't know. See what I'm saying? You're all into the rats. You forgot. There was a clue in that vignette that told you the answer. So that's just my little tip to you. Anytime I see an experimental question, I read carefully. There is a clue somewhere. You are not supposed to know about the rats. You're not supposed to care about the rainbow that came afterwards. They gave you a clue and you kept reading. That's how they know you missed it. Everybody understand me? All right, just so you know. All right, so that's amino acids. Well, if you say you're an acid, so be. It means your pK is less than 7. Do you understand, so be? You understand how to lead? Do you understand, Kathy? So if I say you're an acid, Kathy, what does that mean to you? Your pK has got to be less than 7. If I say you're a base, Kathy, that means your pKa has got to be greater than 7. Do you understand, Kathy? That means if I say, Kathy, you're a base, what's that mean to you? It's got to be a pKa greater than 7. Everybody understand what Kathy understands? Well, folks, there's rarely something that's pure base, something that's pure acid. So that's why we describe what you like. You're acidic, which means you like to behave like an acid. You're basic, which means you prefer to behave like a base. So let's say January said, Dr. Francis, I'm an acid. I said, that's right, January, and you're a good acid, too. there was no joke in there. All right, I don't know where you guys go with that one. All right, so let's say Melanie then sitting right next to her. I just realized, I don't know where I got silent. So anyway, Melanie's sitting right next to her, and then Melanie says, well, I'm a stronger acid. If Melanie says she's a stronger acid, guess what? January started acting like a base. Everybody get the point I'm making? That way, we don't say you're just an acid or just a base. You're acidic or you're basic, which means you like to behave like an acid or you like to behave like a base. Everybody follow me now? All right, because I don't want you guys to memorize. If you just memorize, they'll switch it up on the exam, and then you try to answer based on what you read, now realizing they made the thing behave like the opposite of what you read. You should have read it carefully, you would have seen. Does everybody understand that? All right, so acidic or basic is what we like to use. So now let's look at it. An acid likes to dissociate early. An acid dissociates early. That means it likes to give up its protons early. Everybody clear? These are all the things I want you to hear anytime they say acid or base. Just like when we did cardiac, remember? Just saying the word dilated told us a ton of stuff. Everybody follow? That's why you got to learn the language. One word. These are words the test writer has to use. If you know what they mean, folks, he literally gives you the answer to almost every question he asks you. That's only if you know what it means now. All right, so an acid dissociates early. That means it likes to give up its hydrogen as quickly as possible. Okay? The pK is less than 7. If they want to qualify it, Maria, they'll say a strong acid. pK is 1 to 3. Weak acid, pK is 4 to 7. You understand? You understand, Mitchell? You understand, Tamir? All right, what about a base? A base dissociates later, Tim. Later. That's why the pK is greater than 7. You understand, Miguel? All right, so Melanie, it likes to accept protons. They could write it that way. A base loves to accept protons. So if you're basic, you prefer to hold on to protons. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Weak base, 7 to 9. Strong base, greater than 9. Do you understand, Andre? All right. So that means, folks, if you think about it carefully, pK of 4 to 9 is the gray zone. Does everybody see that? pK of 4 to 9 means you could be a weak acid or you could be a weak base, which means I don't know which one you are till you give me more information. You understand that? That means they have to tell you how this thing behaves. Well, let's bring it to the big picture. In your body, you have acids and you have bases. Now you understand what an acid likes to do, what a base likes to do. Does everybody understand? A base starts off charged, NH3+. That's why I showed it to you. So you always have a visual every time I say a base. NH3+. Everybody with me? An acid starts off neutral, COOH. Janice, if you are an acid, is it hard or easy for you to cross a membrane? Neutral. Did you hear what I just said? COOH, neutral. That's what I'm saying. You got to hear it in the words. It's right there, all the information you need. So that means COOH is neutral. Everybody following? That means it has an easy time crossing any membrane. So that means, Janice, is it hard or easy to absorb? Easy. Volume distribution, high or low? High. Half-life, long or short? Long. Can it get into your skin? Can it get into your muscle? Yes. Can it get into your pancreas? Yes. Can it get into your brain? Yes. CNS toxicity risk, high or low? High. Can it get into your liver? Where's it going to be metabolized? Liver, kidney. Liver is going to be hepatonephrotoxic. Hepatotoxic depends on GFR P450. Sound familiar to anyone? It's called biochemistry. Look at it. Everything about a drug. There it is, folks. Oh, there's a ton of information right here. It turns out, Andre, majority of drugs we use as physicians to give to our patients fall in this range. Most of them are weak acids. So that means if I have an acid, it's neutral, right, Maria? But if I have a base, Maria, it starts off NH3+. It's going to be hard or easy to absorb? Hard. Can it get into your skin? Can it get into your brain? No. CNS toxicity risk, high or low? It's going to be low. Half-life, long or short? Short. Where's it going to be metabolized? Liver or kidney? Kidney. Hepato or nephrotoxic? Nephrotoxic. What's the number one thing you can do to make sure you get rid of that drug, Al? Give them lots of water. Can it be so simple? Here it comes again. That's why I say, folks, if you know your physics, your biochem, you can figure out almost anything anybody can ask you. 90% of the drugs we use, folks, weak acids. Does everybody understand what I'm saying here? So that means, well, let me give you some more information. So weak acids. 3 easy words that are hard to understand. I thought they were easy. Chapter 1 of Lippincott. And then I found out most of the class had never really understood what these 3 words meant. Let me show you. If you understand what these 3 words mean, folks, you're about to understand 1,000 things. But let's see if you guys understand what it is. Eros! To dissociate means to lose a hydrogen. You understand? All right. Soluble means you are now charged or polar. Do you understand that? Soluble means you're charged. You know, plus, negative, whatever. Or polar, sulfur, nitrogen, oxygen. You understand? Bioavailable means you're neutral, which means you can cross membranes. You understand, Eros? All right. So if you're dissociating, Eros, what does that mean to you? You're losing a hydrogen. Eros, if you lose a hydrogen, what happened to you? Low energy state. Okay. All right, let's try Josh. Hey, Josh, if you dissociate, what does that mean? You're losing a hydrogen. So if you lose a hydrogen, Josh, what does that mean? What happened to you? You're soluble. Okay. Rashmi, to dissociate means what to you? To lose a hydrogen. If you lose a hydrogen, Rashmi, what happened to you? You're acidic. All right. Katia, to dissociate means what to you? To lose a hydrogen. So if you lose a hydrogen, Katia, what happened to you? You become charged, Nicole. To dissociate means what to you? To lose a hydrogen. If you lose a hydrogen, what happened to you? You become charged, Kathy. If you dissociate, what happened? Dissociate means what to you? To lose a hydrogen. If you lose a hydrogen, what happened to you? You become charged. To lead. Dissociate means what to you? To lose a hydrogen. If you lose a hydrogen, what happened to you? To become charged. Kimberly, to dissociate means what to you? To lose a hydrogen. If you lose a hydrogen, Kimberly, what happened to you? You become charged. Ellis, same thing. So, like I said before, nobody seems to know what these 3 words mean. Thank you very much. Did I say which one it was? Every one of you made an assumption to that question. The question never told you whether it was an acid or base. You guys made an assumption. Watch out, folks. The brain likes to project. You guys projected something onto that question and answered the wrong question. I never told you if it was an acid or base. That's the reason why, folks, I showed you the picture. So that if it's a base, it starts off charged. So when you dissociate, it becomes neutral. If it's an acid, it starts off neutral. So when you dissociate, it now becomes charged. You cannot make an assumption. So that means when I say you dissociate, all you've done is lost a proton. That's it. When you lose a proton, what happened to you? You dissociated. You can't say anything else. But PJ, if it's an acid that you're dissociating, if you dissociate an acid, does it become charged or neutral? Huh? Which acid are we looking at again, PJ? I could have sworn I just showed it to you. I lost PJ. Here we go again. All right, folks. Visual. Visual. Here's your acid. Starts off neutral, PJ. As it dissociates, you take this form, charged. A base starts off charged already. When it dissociates, it comes neutral. Does everybody understand that now? You understand that, Miguel? You understand that, Mark? You understand that, Diana? Lucas? You understand, Bartholin? All right, we'll see. you know, we're going to see. All right. So dissociation, Tim, means what? To lose a hydrogen. If you become soluble, what's that mean to you, Tim? You're charged or polar. That's the same thing as water soluble. Everybody understand that? So whenever they just say soluble, they're talking about in water. That's the given. They don't have to say in water. You're just supposed to know that. If we say bioavailable, Tamir, is that charged or neutral? That's neutral. That's the same thing as saying fat soluble. Everybody understand? Fat soluble crosses the membrane easily. Water soluble does not. Everybody understand that? You understand Binish? All right, so here's the amino acid again. You see that Binish? Hopefully you remember it. So as an acid dissociates Binish, it gains a negative charge. You understand that? If it gains solubility but loses bioavailability. Does that make sense so far? Everything I said? You understand, Faisal? Everything on here makes sense to everybody? Anybody not understand any one of these three statements? As you dissociate an acid, it gains charge. It becomes water soluble, but it loses bioavailability. It can't cross membranes if it's dragging water with it. Everybody clear? Okay. It's just the opposite as a base. As a base dissociate, it loses its positive charge. It becomes neutral, which means it gains bioavailability. Anybody confused about any one of these three statements about acids or bases? We haven't even got the application yet. That's how I know whether you understand it or not. This is just definition so far. All right? Two guys, Henderson and Eisenbach, came up with an equation. This is the equation. It'll be nowhere on your exam. But the application's all over your exam, if you understand this equation. Watch carefully. pH equals pK minus log of base over acid. If you dissociate at 50%, that means you have half base, half acid. That means base and acid are equal. That means log, anti-log of 1 is 0. That means when you're 50% dissociated, folks, pH equals to pK. If the pH equals to pK, Ajay, it means you have half base, half acid. Do you understand that, Ajay? It means, Andre, you have just the same amount of acid as you do base. Do you understand that, Andre? You understand that, Al? That means you can buffer just as much acid with the base as you can base with the acid. Does everybody understand that? That means when the pH equals to pK, you have maximum buffering capacity. Which means, Mustafa, I have a protein with a pK of 5. When does it have, at what pH do you have maximum buffering capacity? When the pH equals you're taking the long route, Mustafa. Dan has an easy route. When the pH equals the same number I just gave you. When pH and pK are equal, that means the anti-log of base over acid dropped off. That means it's 50% dissociated. Do you understand, Mustafa? Okay. That means if I got somebody with a pK of 6.2, when does it have maximum buffering capacity? When the pH equals 6.2. Does everybody understand that? It's called hide in plain sight. They give you the answer in the question. Everybody understand that? Okay. Flip it around. Ask it this way. The pH in your serum right now, Mustafa, is what? 7.4. I'm going to give you all 20 amino acids with the pK of every side chain that they have. How would you find which amino acid has the best buffering capacity for you? Whichever one has a pK of 7.4. Does that make sense to everyone? But wait a minute, Melanie. I look at all 20 amino acids. I don't have any amino acids with a pK of 7.4. How do I figure out which one has the best buffering for me anyway? The one that's closest to it. The one that's closest to you? Histidine. Oh, 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 oh. Check it out, check it out, check it out. Binish. What amino acid has the best buffering capacity inside of a red blood cell? Inside synovial fluid, aqueous humor, bone, skin, hair, left eye, your retina, your lens, your lung parenchyma. Does everybody understand what I just said? That means you should never have to think for more than 1 second. If they want to even get it down to an amino acid, you now know it. That means for extracellular, you know it's glycan. Intracellular, you say protein. They can only get specific about that protein. But if they want to get it all the way down to amino acid, now you know. The answer will never change, no matter what tissue we're talking about. Does everybody clearly understand that? Okay, we'll find out later. All right, so pH, for the pH equals pK, I got 50% dissociation. So that means, Monica, if I ask you, when you have 50% dissociation, what percentage is fat soluble? 50%. What percentage is water soluble? 50%. What percentage is charged? Huh? 50%. What percentage is neutral? 50%. What percentage will be absorbed easily? 50%. What percent will be hard to absorb? 50%. Everybody understanding me so far? All right. What if they give you something different? Then you better know this chart. All right, so the 50% is the one I just gave you. When the pH equals to pK, that's easy. Every answer is 50%. Does everybody understand that? All right. Now, since calculators are outlawed, you got to know this chart, because you can't have a calculator do anti-log of anything. They give you the ones that are easy. Now, if the pK is a static number, that number they'll just give you. If you go one pH number below that, because the pH you can always change, only 10% is dissociated now. If you're 2 below that, only 1% is dissociated. If you go 1 above it, 90%, 2 above it, 99%. So let's try it 30. Do you understand this chart? Then show it to me, my man. I got a pK of 5. Is that an acid or base? That's an acid, weak or strong. Weak. And I change the pH to 6. Is that above or below your pK? Above. 1 or 2 above? 1. Folks, watch there. You just go right across here and tell me what percentage is dissociated. And you say 90%. The pH changes, folks. The pH changes every time you drink Coke or Pepsi. That's the big picture. That means when you drink Coke, Pepsi, Sprite, you take antacids. Do you realize, folks, you start changing every protein in your body? That's the big picture. That is the big picture. Why is it when somebody's acidotic, all of a sudden things don't work? Why is it when they're alkalotic, things really don't work? Folks, that's what it came from Anderson Oxalate. Coming at you, man. Coming at you. Man, he got a question. Many in hell. It's PKA. Oh, Manny, feeling that joy. All right, so Manny, very good. So let's say I got a pK of 4, Manny. Is that acid or base? Strong or weak? Weak. pH of 2. Is that above or below? Below. 1 or 2 below? 2 below. What percentage dissociated? Everybody following there, all right? 1% dissociation. Everybody understand? That's how you answer those questions. They'll give you the pK of something, tell you the new pH, and ask you what percentage is dissociated. Everybody understand how to figure it out? Well, let's check it out. Finish. Let's take you to another level. All right? You got a pK of 4. Is that an acid or base? That's an acid, strong or weak? Weak. And a pH of 3. Are you above or below? Below. 1 or 2 below? 1 below. What percentage associated? So 10%. Everybody follow her so far. Take it to the next level. Finish. What percentage is charged? What percentage is charged? No. All right, that's why you got to know what you're dissociating. These numbers, folks, listen up, make sure you understand this. This is just a concept. I haven't even applied it yet. If you don't understand these pieces, when I start applying, you'll be lost. These numbers, if you're an acid, remember you're going from COOH neutral from COO minus charge. These numbers represent the charged form, therefore, for an acid. For a base, it's just the opposite. That's why I wanted you to picture it before we got here. For a base, these numbers represent the neutral form. They went from NH3 plus to NH2. So that means, Benish, for your same acid that you're doing, at a pH of 3, pK of 4, you said 10% dissociated. That means this 10% represents the charged form. All I did was just change the question and ask her what percent is charged. So she has to recognize she was dissociating an acid. So these numbers represent the charged form. That means if I ask you what percentage is neutral, Benish, you say, then you say subtract it from 100, you get 90%. It's still neutral. Which one of those forms, Benish, will cross the membrane? The charged or neutral form? Charges have an easier time crossing membranes, Benish. Does a charged particle have an easier time crossing a membrane, Benish? Not last I checked. Neutral goes across membranes. That's bioavailable. Charged is soluble, has a hard time. You can't drag water through fat. So anything that's charged will drag water, which means they're going to have a hard time getting across a membrane. You understand that, Kathia? You understand, Monica? You understand, Sandeep? You understand, PJ? All right, man. PJ, let's do another one. You got a pK of 8, acid or base. Base, weak or strong? Weak. pH of 10. Are you above or below? Above. 1 or 2 above? 2 above. What percentage dissociated? 99%. What percentage will be easy to absorb? 99%. Everybody understand it now? Because there's so many ways they can ask you the same question. That's why we went through all that definition before you can do this. They can either just ask you what percent dissociated. Everybody know how to do that, right? You just got to know this chart. But they can also ask you, well, what percent is charged? For an acid, that's these numbers. For a base, just the opposite. Everybody understand? They can ask it that way. Or they can ask you what percent will cross a membrane. That's the same thing as neutral, isn't it? Or what percent is bioavailable? What percentage have a long half-life, short half-life? Go to the kidney, nephrotoxic, hepatotoxic. Everybody follow that? Oh, I don't know if you really understand what you just learned. So tell me what I got to do, Kathia. I got to break it down in simple language what you just learned, man. You just mastered 1,000 things, but you just don't know. That's what comes out of that one equation. Check it out. Kathia, first application. You take aspirin. pK is around 4. Okay? If you want to absorb more acid, do you want to keep it in neutral form or charged form, Kathia? You want to keep it in neutral form. If you want to keep it in neutral form, do you want to stay above or below the pK? Below the pK. At least how many pH points below? At least 2. So wait a minute. If you don't want to absorb an acid, Kathia, do you want it in a charged or neutral form? Charged. You want to stay above or below the pK? Above. At least how many pH points above? At least 2. Everybody following that? Tina, you're a base. If you want to absorb more base, do you want it in a charged or neutral form? Neutral. If you want a base to be neutral, do you want to stay above or below its pK? For a base that starts off NH3 plus, you want to go to neutral, you better go above to NH2. Everybody following? At least how many pH points above? At least 2. Tina, you got a base and you don't want to absorb it. Do you want to stay above or below its pK? Below at least how many pH points below? At least 2. Everybody understand? Melanie, question for you. I got a patient on an acid. Same dose. He's been taking the same dose for weeks. And today he comes in and he's toxic on that acid, which means he must have mixed it with what? Not last I checked. Isn't that what you just saw? Like absorbs and like. Did you follow? Did everybody follow that? If you want to absorb more acid, I heard bring the pH down. That's acid. So that means, Melanie, let's do it again. You're on an acid. And then today you're toxic on that acid. It means you must have mixed it with what? Another acid. Nicole, you're on a base. And today you're toxic on that base. It means you must have mixed it with what? No, I said if you're on a base and then you're toxic on that base, you must have mixed it with what? What makes a base easier to absorb? Base or acid? All right, everybody following. I told you, if you forget the definitions, folks, when I get to application, you're going to be lost. As I said, make sure you follow the definitions. So, an acid, just remember, an acid, when it dissociates, it becomes charged. Everybody clear about this? A base, when it dissociates, becomes neutral. So that means, let's bring it to real life. Al, you're taking aspirin. pK, around 4.2. Let me give you the pKs. pH is throughout your GI tract. In your stomach, your pH is 1 to 2. In the stomach, pH 1 to 2. Duodenum, 3 to 5. Duodenum, 3 to 5. Early jejunum, 5 to 7. Late jejunum, 7 to 9. And then ileum is more than 9. Out! You're taking aspirin. pK around 4.2. If you want to absorb more aspirin, do you want more acid or more base around it? More acid. How many pH points you want to be below 4.2? At least 2. Where in the GI tract are you going to find that, Al? That's why aspirin burns a hole through your GI tract when it's trying to be absorbed through your stomach. Oh, I think that's it. I think that's it. Yep, that's it. Why do you think you get gastritis, gastric bleeding, gastric ulcers? I got to break it down, man. Because you're trying to absorb all the acid through acid. Most of the aspirin got absorbed through your stomach, folks. That's why it burnt the hole through it. What if they're therefore, I ask you, Josh, what is the approximate pK of an NSAID? Don't NSAIDs do the same thing as aspirin? Doesn't prednisone do the same thing in your stomach? I bet you I know what their pKs are. They know it's nowhere in your books, folks, but you got to know how to connect it. That means they got to have similar pKs. Why would you be trying to absorb so much acid through your stomach? Because that's the only place you have a pH around 2. That means if the pK is anywhere around 4, that's where you're going to absorb the majority of it. Application number 2. Everybody understand that? First one? Wait a minute. Rebecca has a question. Right here. Right. An acid will absorb in an acid. Because that's 10%. If you want maximum, you want to be less than 1% dissociated. Yeah. Everybody understand? So that means if I give you aspirin and you absorb most of it through your stomach, does everybody understand why they tell somebody now, any signs of stroke or MI, eat an aspirin and then go to the hospital? Because the second it hits your stomach, you absorb it. Why do you think mortality dropped when they started giving aspirin at home rather than wait till they get to the emergency room? I think it was Henderson Housebach, if you understand it. Application number 1. Well, actually 2. So gastric ulcers, the reason why aspirin, NSAIDs, and prednisone causes ulcers, now you know. Okay? And now, why do we tell stroke or MI patients take aspirin before you go to the emergency room? Because they absorb right out of their stomach. Why wait till they get to the emergency room? Everybody understand? Mortality dropped in that study. Makes sense to me. Anybody understand it? Application number 3. Tip! I give you aspirin. And then all of a sudden you come in and you got cinchonism, man. You must have mixed it with what? Nope. Verdi. I give you aspirin. You come in with cinchonism. Last I checked, cinchonism is a toxicity of aspirin. So you got to hear it in that word that the person absorbed way too much of an acid, which means, Tim, he must have mixed it with what? January. He must have mixed it with another acid. Where else are you going to find an acid at home? It's called juice. Orange juice, apple juice, pineapple juice. I don't care what juice you drink. How many doctors tell their patients, do not mix your aspirin with orange juice in the morning? I haven't heard one yet ever spit those words out. See, everybody's waiting for an article to tell them that, folks. You're in medicine. You got to know your physio. That means you should be way ahead of any article coming out to tell you what to do. Nobody ever tells a patient. This is why it's all over your boards. You know how many people come in every day toxic on aspirin? Because nobody told them, don't drink it down with orange juice, don't drink it down with pineapple juice, don't drink it down with this juice, and then they're toxic. Well, just to give you, same thing happened to me. You know, I take aspirin. Remember stroke and MI prevention, right? All you need is 81 milligrams of aspirin to thromboxane production. So I take baby aspirin every morning. Well, years ago I realized, hey, wait a minute. That's why I'm in the low energy state in the morning, because I don't eat breakfast. So I said, I got to go back to eating breakfast. As part of my breakfast, glass of juice. Take my aspirin, drink down the juice. And then after a while, a couple of weeks, I'm up at the board drawing things, and I'm hearing ringing. Tonight is like you wouldn't believe. I'm like, dang, who's ringing that bell? Where's that bell at? Hey, somebody got a bell in here? I mean, oh my God, I couldn't figure out where the ring was coming from. And then I'm giving this lecture. I used to give biochemistry the first week. So I was giving this lecture, and all of a sudden the light went on. Ding. I said, oh my God, look at that. I forgot to tell myself, don't mix juice with aspirin, or else you're going to become toxic on it. So many patients show up toxic in the emergency room from aspirin ingestion. And yet when you ask them, how many aspirins do you take a day? Just one. The doctor then thinks he's lying. He's not lying. You just didn't tell him. Don't mix it with another acid. Does everybody understand that? You will see it, folks. Don't call a patient a liar, because that's what we used to do when we were residents. If something doesn't match, you just say, oh, the patient must be lying. That's not true. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. So, folks, you got to understand the physio, so you don't always take it out on the patient. Okay? Everybody understand that? That's aspirin. So that means, Dahlia, if you want to absorb more acid, you should mix it with what? Mix it with acid or base, Dahlia. That's all I want to hear. We'll mix it with an acid. If you want to absorb more base, Tony, you should mix it with what? More base. Does everybody understand that? Turn it around, Kimberly. If you do not want to absorb more acid, mix it with what? Mix it with base. Does everybody understand, Kimberly? Kimberly. If you don't want to absorb more base, mix it with what? An acid. Toxicology complete. Thank you very much. I got to bring it down, hell. I got to show these folks what's going on, man. Read the article. They say, no, call poison control. Punch 1 if you speak English. Punch 2 if you speak Espanol. Punch 3 if you speak Ebonics. What the hell is this all about, man? Tell me what to do for my patient. I got time to go through all these numbers. You can call poison control all you want. I've never called poison control, folks. Henderson Housebach told me what to do for everything that goes on out there. Can you believe that? See how simple that is? Now, the question is, how do you determine what to do? Mom calls you at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and say, oh, my Johnny got into something underneath the kitchen cabinet, and he drank it, and now he's passed out. I say, Ma, just get the container, read it to me. And she reads it to me, acid, 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 I don't even know what the hell she's talking about. I just hear acid at the end. Michelle, what did I tell her to do? Give him what? So give him base. Acknowledge the physiology first. Give him base. Milk or Alka-Seltzer. Or how about Arm & Hammer baking soda? Every refrigerator has it. Folks, you just saved a life without causing poison control. And then say, come on the emergency room. Little Johnny will be fine when he gets there. Everybody understand me? Done. Done. You say, well, Dr. Fans, how do you know it's a base? Oh, I got that covered too. I say, Mama, read me the can. What's it say? And she says, and I keep hearing 8. 8. 8. Remember, lactic acid is nothing but hydrogen and lactate. Benzoic acid is just H plus and benzoate. Citric acid is just H plus and citrate. Once I hear about 2 or 3 8s, I say, ha, it's a base. What did I tell her to do, Thomas? Give that child what? What? I'm not trying to kill my patient, Thomas. I want to save my patient. They drank a base, and I don't want them to absorb it. I should mix it with what, Dan? An acid. Where do I find that acid in the house? Any juice in the refrigerator, folks. You just saved a life. And by the time the person gets to the emergency room, the mom swears you're a hero, man. Check it out, folks. No cause of poison control. No articles to pull out of your pocket. You just got to know physio and biochem. You can figure it all out. Question, sir.
Okay, so if you, let's say you don't want, well, something is ionic and needs soluble. Insoluble is something that will be absorbed?
No, soluble means it's dragging water. Charged or neutral, which means it's going to be hard to absorb.
Okay, so let's say if you have something that's at a base of 6, okay? And a base goes from...
So you're saying a weak base.
Right, a weak base.
Okay.
And that breaks down to a neutral. So if you
Okay.
want to absorb more,
Right. That's what we said. If you want to absorb base, give them base. Isn't that what we said? If you want to absorb acid, give them acid. Now we're doing the opposite. What if you don't want to absorb something? That's called toxicology. Somebody ingests something, you don't want them to absorb it? Folks, check it out. Henderson Hasselbach told me what to do. Chapter 1, look at God. Come on, baby, I got to break it down, man. We're just getting started, boy. It's just getting started. Everybody understand toxicology so far? Let's say, however, you got a strong acid or a strong base. Then you don't want to mix the opposite one. That's called caustic ingestions. Okay? Remember I told you the majority of drugs are right here, 4 to 9. That's why it's okay to mix the opposite. But if you got a strong one, 1 to 3, above 9, don't mix. Now, how do we know that? Okay? If you mix the opposite pH with a strong acid, so you mix a base with a strong acid or an acid with a strong base, the reaction is so violent it releases a lot of heat, especially if you mix an acid with a strong base. The amount of heat released is so abundant, it'll melt your esophagus. You'll perforate it. Everybody understand that? This is way back from organic chemistry, Tamir. Another one of those classes I was so happy I got done with because I never understand what the heck we were doing. I remember, I got there, the instructor told me, what to do, and I said, okay, I got it. I remember I told you when somebody shakes their head too much like this, they really don't understand what you're saying. But it's just nice to keep saying this. All right, okay. So I said, okay, I got it. And then it came time to that part. I said, what is it? Don't add acid to base or don't add base to acid? Oh, okay, I think I got it. Mix it to boom, explosion in the lab. Just got my head out of the way on time. And he came over. He said, Francis, now remember, don't mix an acid with a strong base or a base with a strong acid. Especially don't mix an acid with a strong base. The amount of heat release is tremendous. That's what causes explosion. I said, okay, teacher, I got it. I got it. Yeah, right. Till the next weekend we had lab again. And I couldn't remember. Was it don't add acid, a strong base, or a base, a strong? Okay, I think I got it. Boom! Another explosion. I'm like, oh, dang it, man. The instructor came over to me. You know what he said to me? He said, Francis, why don't you just copy off somebody else's paper? Now you know you're a menace to society when the teacher tells you better copy off of somebody else's. Because he knew if a third explosion happened, somebody's going to die up in that joint. Okay? Because I never could understand what he was talking about. So when it's a strong acid, don't mix. When it's a strong base, do not mix. Everybody understand that? Especially don't mix an acid with a strong base. That releases the most heat. Everybody follow? So anytime you got a caustic ingestion, let's say it's the base, that's the worst type, do not mix it with any acid. Everybody follow that, right? That's why when they come into the hospital after ingesting something caustic, we always scope them, especially when they've ingested a base. Why is it we scope all of them when they've ingested a base? Because doggone it, there's an acid nearby. Where is it? In your stomach. How can I control that? I can't. Folks, there's a lot of heat can be released whether I like it or not. That's why they say just don't make it any worse. But it's going to release some heat. So every child who ingests a base, you must scope all of them. A strong base, that is. Everybody follow me? You must scope all of them because there's acid reflux in everybody. That means once it mixes with that acid coming up from the stomach, all of a sudden a ton of heat got released. It'll melt the esophagus. You got a hole. So when you got that kind of problem, acutely you worry about esophageal bleeding and perforation. So scope all of them. That's acutely what you're worried about. Bleeding and perforation. Chronically, you're worried about scarring, so stricture formation. Everybody follow that? Yes, sir.
So is our scope
To see if they've perforated already. Yeah. If they perforate, they got to go to surgery.
So we're not washing out?
No. It's just to see if they perforate. If they have, we got to go to surgery. Everybody understand? All right? Yes. I'm just doing one step at a time. You understand what I've said so far? Yeah. All right. So let's say, question, Ajay. Stricture formation from scarring. Remember fibrosis, 3 to 6 months. All right? So now, that's for a strong base. Everybody understand that? Where do you find strong base in the house? Underneath the kitchen sink. Drain cleaners. These are strong bases they expect you to know because they won't tell you. They'll tell you Johnny drank some Drano. You're supposed to know that's a strong base. So drain cleaners, liquid plumber, Drano, and then hair relaxers. Yeah, sodium hydroxide. You should read how strong they are. Oh, yeah. Some of them anyway, not all of them. But you got to be careful. Those are 3 that they expect you should know. They're not going to tell you. So if Johnny drank any of those, say, Mom, don't do anything. Now, Mustafa, you ask yourself, if somebody ingested something and you cannot make it charged so you can't absorb it, then you have to ask yourself, Mustafa, what is the most important factor that governs the movement of that particle across the membrane? Concentration gradient. And how can I decrease that concentration gradient, Mustafa? Dilute it down. That's why they say drink water. That's why if battery acid spill on your eye, what do they say? Flush with lots of water. You pour battery acid on your skin, what do they tell you? Flush with lots of water. Folks, check it out. For any caustic ingestion, that's how I know. Caustic, anything burns on your skin, your eye, I don't care where you poured it. I say, douse it with a ton of water. I'll meet you in the emergency room. Because do not touch the opposite pH or else you're in trouble. Everybody follow. It's just like high calcium, high magnesium. What do we do for it? Dilute it down. Same thing here. Dilute it down so you don't absorb so much of it. That means even if you have to stick an NG tube down there and just start pouring lots of saline down, that's exactly what we do. Because there's nothing you can do. You just want to minimize the absorption. Just keep plenty of water going through that GI tract or going over their skin or going across their eye and just watch them and hope they'll be fine. Remember, the body can regenerate itself. GI regenerates. The skin, the eyes, they all regenerate. You're okay. As long as I make sure the harm is minimized. Does everybody understand caustic ingestions and how to deal with them? Henderson Asaba explains that too. Ooh. Wow. You understand, Marie? Understand Michelle? Understand Tamir? Understand Elvis? You with me, man? So that means Elvis. If the doctor tells you to take that drug on an empty stomach, did he just give you an acid or a base? He must have given you an acid, folks. That's why he wants your stomach to stay acidic. Everybody understand that? An acid absorbs an acid. Check it out. You understand, Diana? An acid absorbs an acid, a base absorbs a base. You understand that? That means if I give you a drug and I say take an empty stomach, it means I want your pH to stay 1 to 2. If I wanted to stay acidic, I must have just given you an acid, because an acid absorbs an acid. Do you understand? Diana, if the doctor tells you take this drug with food, do you just give you an acid or a base? He must have given you a base, because that way if you eat food, you raise the pH in your stomach. Everybody follow? Which means you raise the pH throughout the GI tract even faster, which means a base will neutralize and be absorbed quicker. Does everybody understand that? Okay, so another application. Another application. Melanie, I give you a drug, and it's an acid. Should I take it on an empty stomach or with food? Empty stomach. Everybody clear about that, right? Let's say you say, I don't trust Dr. Franz. I'm going to just go eat some crackers with this. Go ahead, eat the crackers. If you raise the pH in your stomach and you just suggested an acid, is it going to become charged or neutral? It's going to become charged. You can absorb more or less. You can absorb less. Everybody see that? All right, we got 2 antibiotics, tetracyclines and quinolones, that are strong acids. Should I take those on an empty stomach or with food, Janice? Empty stomach. You don't listen to me, and you take it with food. And then you just ingest an acid. What kind of charge is that drug going to take? Positive or negative? You just ingested an acid, Janice. And it ionizes. There's going to be a positive or negative charge on it. Negative. COH to COO minus. Everybody understand that? And that's why that drug will bind anything that's positive anywhere around it. You wonder why they tell you do not take tetracycline with calcium containing antacids? The antacid will raise the stomach pH, and it'll just bind up the calcium. You poop it right back out like you never took it. Oh. Henderson Hasselbeck? Yeah. But see, if you don't know that, you got to wait for the article to tell you that, instead of figuring it out for yourself that you don't do that. Okay? tetracyclines, quinolones. So they'll give you a patient who's on a quinolone for a UTI or something like that, and then he's been taking the right dose, and then 2 days later he's sicker than he was 2 days ago. And then ask you, geez, can you offer an explanation why he's not getting any better? Maybe you forgot to tell him, take this on an empty stomach. He's not absorbing any quinolone at all because you never said anything. Remember I told you, most physicians, we don't make errors because of commission. We don't go out to hurt people and kill people. We make most of our errors by omission because we don't know what to do, so we just don't do anything, and then the patient goes home, and you think he's absorbing his quinolone when he isn't. He's taking it with breakfast like he does with all his other pills. And because you never said anything, he thinks that's okay. But he's sicker in 1 to 2 days, and you don't know why. You see? Unnecessary hospitalization, if you would have caught it. Manny. That's correct. That's correct. So let's say, Andre, you got a question. Right. You can absorb a lot less of it now. Right. Then you'll absorb more of it down there. Right. Still the same. Yeah. He's saying, well, you know, if you know that something's going to be irritating your stomach, what about if we make it more basic in your stomach? If I put a base in your stomach, is it going to be charged or uncharged, Cammie? No, a base stays charged in an acid. Your stomach is acid. Remember, it starts off NH3+. That means you got to go above 7 before it starts losing any proton. Everybody follow me? So if I give you a base in your stomach, it stays charged. That's soluble, is it not? Can you absorb it, Cammie? Is it going to be hard or easy to absorb? Difficult to absorb. So let's say you don't like the way aspirin is irritating your stomach. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take aspirin. I'm going to wrap a base around it. That means this base stays charged in your stomach, which means soluble, which means you're not going to absorb it. Everybody with me? And then it floats all the way down to your jejunum. And as you float down to jejunum, where the pH is much higher, guess what? These positive charges go away. If those positive charges go away, that means this outer layer becomes fat soluble, does it not? If it becomes fat soluble, guess what it's going to do? Stick to the walls of the intestine. Fat is attracted to fat, is it not? That means the aspirin can now come across still intact. Fat crosses fat easily, doesn't it? Welcome to enteric coating. I got to bring it down, man. Henderson, how's it? Yeah. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Do you see what I see, Dahlia? Do you see through the eyes of Biochemistry? Do you see this now, Dahlia? And acid absorbs in what kind of environment? An acidic environment. A base absorbs in what kind of environment? And I told you that most drugs we give in medicine, are they acids or bases, Dahlia? Acids. Wait a minute. Dahlia, is alcohol an acid or base? Alcohol is an acid. That's why they say don't mix drugs with alcohol. I got to break it down for you, man. Why do you think they say when you're on any medication, do not mix with alcohol? Because you may absorb way too much and get sick as a dog, man. Why do you think they tell a pregnant woman, don't drink alcohol? Besides fetal alcohol syndrome, folks, you have no idea what toxicities you're going to cause that woman. By drinking alcohol, all of a sudden she absorbs way too much of anything. So that means, therefore, Kimberly, James, you understand if you got an acid, you don't want to absorb it, you give them what? Give them a base. If somebody ingests a base and you don't want to absorb it, you give them what? An acid. Everybody understand that part so far? If it's strong base or strong acid, remember, don't mix. Definitely a strong base. Do not mix with an acid. Everybody understand that part? Dilute it, and then for everybody who ingests a base, scope all of them. Everybody understand that part? Let's say you got a patient who ingested something and you can't figure out what they ingested. we step in and save 90% again. Tell me again, Dinah, the majority of drugs that we give people, acids or bases. Acids, if you don't want to absorb it, give them what? Give them base. Somebody look up what activated charcoal is. I got to break it down for you. Why do you think all over PDR, give them activated charcoal, give them activated charcoal, give them activated charcoal? Do you know what it is? No! But an article keeps telling you the same thing, and you don't know why they keep telling you that. Folks, whenever you don't know, you save 90%. Basic stuff every day. But how many doctors kept telling me, oh, there's no biochem out here in practice? Really? Everything's become so automatic, nobody knows what it is anymore. It's just, oh, the article says, give activated charcoal, give activated charcoal, give activated charcoal. Folks, on the boards, that's how you do it. In real life, same thing. If you don't know, you give them the base. Save 90%. See what happens when you try to be so specific, know everything, know every detail, and then the mom tells you she has no idea what that child ingested. Folks, then you'll forget what to do. You'll be scratching your head. What am I to do? What am I to do? What am I to do? And forget the 90%. Most drugs are acids. Take a chance, folks, or else that child's going to die anyway if you don't do something. But you'll be right 9 out of 10 times. That's why even when they're out of it, we'll put an NG tube down and put the activated charcoal down there anyway. Because that's the best chance of saving that child's life. And yet you have no idea what he ingested. But you're going to save 90% of them. Henderson Hazabot? Yep. So many applications, folks. So many applications. My goodness. I mean, after I met Dr. Shaw, I started to really understand this stuff. Ooh, man, most of my grand rounds, you know, residents got to do grand rounds. I started going back to basic stuff, trying to teach my colleagues. Man, let me show you where all this stuff, where we do, where it came from. Most of them had no idea where it all came from. All of a sudden, they saw it. Holy cow. All of a sudden, they knew there's a way to figure these things out for yourself without reading 25 articles in a week. If you just knew what that drug was, acid or base, you could have figured out how to treat it yourself without poison control, without an article. Dinah. Because most of them fall between 4 and 9. It doesn't matter if you take it with food or without food. See that? That's why it doesn't matter if you don't give them any instructions. But you got to know when a drug mandates, you better give them an instruction, folks. Like aspirin, that's way down there, 4.2. If you don't want them to absorb too much, you better tell them. Okay? Like with NSAIDs, when they're irritating somebody's stomach. Before you start whipping out misoprostol, it's like $90. Just tell them, take a little food with it. Eat some crackers or something. See that? That way absorb less. That means less likely to burn a hole in your stomach. The problem is the articles don't tell you that. Yeah, that's because the drug company wants you to give them misoprostol. Yeah. So we can make $90 per prescription. You got to understand, folks, our job is not to just push pills for everything that goes wrong. If you understand why something went wrong, you will understand how to correct it, and it usually costs no money at all. But when somebody writes an article, they usually got a grant from some company, and they're going to say, no, give them this drug, give them this drug, give them that drug. Okay, fine, but that's not the best answer on the test, I bet you. When you get to the exam, then you quote that answer you just got off the article, and lo and behold, you didn't get a point. And you don't know why. Because the guy who wrote that question expected you to understand your physiology, not just quote what an article said, and still not know what's going on. There's too much of that already going on out there. A lot of physicians pass their exams, but boy, when you ask them, explain why you do what you do, can't do it. That's just what we always do. That's what we always see. That's what we always hear. That's what we always do. Everything is just what? That's what we always. Come on, folks, that's not the truth at all. There's a reason, okay? And that's what you're here to learn. All right.